Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, which dropped this morning at 6 a.m. Adam Caplan's in today since we are off tomorrow. Adam and Andrew played a little switcheroni since we talked to Andrew earlier in the week. We wanted to get Adam's opinions on what is happening with NFL free agency. And, of course, today, Adam, the Eagles threw a little curveball out there. I don't know if they tried to take the attention off of Carson Wentz talking about the same time, but Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni got in front of the media today, or maybe they were in cahoots with the Colts. They didn't want to send anybody to that press conference, so they had everybody go to their press conference. But that being said, pal, how are you on this Thursday?
Yeah, good to talk to you, Mike. That didn't work. They both the Philly media, because remember there's this brouhaha where the Philly media was not invited to Wentz's press conference earlier this week. And then once it came to Thursday, within the last 24 hours, they were invited. So some of them got on there. There were probably about 4 of them who asked questions. But that was by far the most interesting one. The Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni one was about as boring as dry could get. Very little to take away. There were a few things. But the Wentz press conference is really good. And remember, Mike, he had not talked to the Philly media since he got benched.
Right. It has been since week 13 of the NFL season against the Green Bay Packers when he got benched, and he has not been in front of the media since. So let's kind of, I didn't see the Wentz stuff because, I was kind of watching the Roseman stuff.
I just watched it.
All right. So did Wentz say anything that kind of that stood out to you?
Yeah, I would say, Mike, a couple things, probably 2 or 3 things that I thought were interesting. So he was asked by one of the reporters from Philly about when did you kind of know that things were not good, and it was at the Green Bay game. And he said, yeah, you know what? Now you ask me that, it was probably Green Bay game when he knew things weren't right or things weren't well. He got benched. And then you saw Ertz come in. But, yeah, I would say that was interesting. There was I'm waiting for the transcript because I don't want to attribute something to Wentz that he didn't say exactly. But he had a very interesting reaction when he asked his teammates about the building and the team, and the response they gave him was interesting. And I found it different probably than most people because I knew going behind the scenes, Jeff Mosher and I had reported just a lot of the stuff that we had heard about Wentz's issues with the organization in Philly, and I know that he had issues with the organization, which we've a lot of people outlined. It wasn't just us who were covering the story, but he goes now to. And he talked about the fresh start. He was asked about that, by the way, Mike, having a fresh start. And he did use that term. And he clearly needed one. And, boy, was he excited. I have to tell you, that was the first thing I noticed watching it, the smile on his face. And he was happy, And he wore a really nice jacket, by the way. Usually I don't talk about those things. But a nice blue and white jacket, ironically. He's a Colt now. So that was interesting. You could just tell he felt at ease now that he's with the Colts. And Frank Reich, his good friend. He's very close with Frank Reich, by the way, who's now his head coach and offense coordinator. Well, when I say offense coordinator, he's the play caller. So that was some of the stuff that I thought was interesting.
Doug Peterson did a sit-down, I guess, on a podcast with John Clark. And in that podcast, he kind of said it's kind of a misnomer that we did not have this relationship, that we did not talk. Did Carson kind of mention this at all? Did he talk about his relationship with Peterson? Because I find it interesting. Peterson, he doesn't have a job. He could go out. He could say, look, yeah, it was tough between us, but he seemingly is holding that ground that him and Carson got along and that he didn't know where this was coming from.
Yeah, no, the thing with Peterson is this. No, he wants to get another job, Mike. Let me just adjust what you said. No, he wants to get another job, and he's not going to say anything that's going to inflame anything. Because if he says, we had problems and there were issues, that's not going to look good for him to be a head coach again. So I understand his response with John Clark. My information and Doug and Jeff Mosher's information is actually different from that. And I know Doug went through it. But Doug clearly wants to be head coach again. It's not a secret. I'm talking to people who know him well. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to be this year, as we know. So we'll see what happens with Doug. But my version of what really happened is much different from what he's saying.
Adam Caplan, Football at 4 here. So Carson Wentz speaks with the Colts media, and there was some Eagles media there, and obviously he did kind of brush on it. The Eagles put out a statement yesterday ahead of time. I mean, they put out something on the website, and then they throw Howie out there today and Nick Sirianni about an hour, 45 minutes or so. I thought the takeaway that I had, and let me see where you kind of felt, I mean, he reiterated that, hey, this was just best for both parties. He's mentioned a couple times about, getting the flexibility with the salary cap. He's kind of mentioned that making this trade, give them some flexibility and that kind of stuff. But he also
not this year. Yeah, not this. In future years, yes, for sure.
Okay, so yeah, exactly. Good point there. But he also, did not poo-poo that quarterback is very much in play for them. He mentioned we only have one on the roster, so of course, yes. But did you get the sense, because I'm looking at social media as this going on, did you get the sense, a lot of people said, oh, he's taking a quarterback at number 6 no matter what after listening to this.
No,
did you get the same sense?
No, but I would say this. I can't imagine they were happy at my friend Chris Mortensen's report, which I'm sure is true, that he put out a couple weeks ago. We all know that his report was, just to sum it up, that Jeffrey Lurie wants to clear the decks, doesn't want any competition for Hurts, wants him to be the guy. And I think part of that, by the way, my reading to Mort's report was this. And I know, by the way, and I'm going to get to that too. There's something tied into this with Carson Wentz. Wentz was asked at his press conference today with the Indy media and some of the Eagles media, but a lot of the Indy media about, when the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts, did that impact you? At first, he said, no. Look, they told me, and it was no big, I understood it. But I would go back, folks, and listen to what he said. I know. Look, I talked to people who felt it did. Again, it's a subjective response by people because they're not him, but people know him. Told me that it definitely impacted him. To what degree, we'll never know. But I thought he was really revealing today. Carson's actually, I know people say he's dry. Sometimes he gives you really insight to what he's thinking if he's willing to do it. And I thought he did that today. I was really impressed by his willingness to speak about some things, not others though, which we would have liked. But obviously he's no longer there, and he wanted to look ahead as much as possible. But here's another thing, Mike. Maybe he was told this before, but when you see some of the Philly media on your conference call or your Zoom session, I wonder if he was trying to be guarded or not. Though I did think, though, the more that they asked him about what happened to Philly, the more he was willing to respond.
I got to go, I got to take the time to go back and watch it. I didn't have the time. It was on at the same time. And then, of course, I have this job that gets in the way of some things.
Yep,
but I do want to watch that.
I would talk about that. Hey, Mike, I would talk about that on your show on Monday. I'm saying you personally. There's some good takeaways. I'll be very interested. I'll listen to your show on Monday. Who do you have to check on Monday or Jeff?
Monday. Actually, we are off on Monday with the tournament. We'll be back on Tuesday.
All right, but I still think it's worth touching on, and then you close the book on it, obviously. And on our podcast, Inside the Birds, people are sick and tired of talking about Wentz, but because the trade was official on Wednesday, we closed the book on that.
No, and look, when yesterday the news came out initially that they weren't going to let the Philly media in, I said, man, I don't know why Carson just doesn't address this and just get it behind him. Because you know what will happen is, hey, the first game Indianapolis plays, somebody's going to send one of their writers to go cover the Colts game so they get a chance to talk to him. I mean, so he's not going to be able to avoid it. Somebody's going to ask him at some point. So I don't know why. And I don't know why the Indianapolis, this is what kind of made me scratch my head at him, is it why the Indianapolis media PR would acquiesce to him. This is already letting him have power by saying, I don't want to answer their questions. And they should say, just get it over with, and then it'll be done.
And Mike, what's interesting is, okay, so you say that, right? Well, we know a couple of days ago that wasn't happening. It was going to acquiesce. And then who knows? Was there a barter? Like, what made the Colts PR people agreeable to get Carson to do it? And again, it's really not his call. It's their PR people. Actually, one of them is from Philly, by the way. Their PR director's from Philly, but grew up here. But look, it was interesting. I didn't know where. And by the way, the Colts media, we should mention this. The Colts media also asked some tough questions in the beginning about what happened and why didn't things go well enough for you. I thought it was interesting in a time where this is probably going to be it for him, talking about what happened in Philly. Unless he does like a side interview, that's probably going to be it.
Adam, so out of the Sirianni and Roseman presser today, did you feel, because I kind of just broached that, a lot of people watching on social media felt, oh, he's going to take a quarterback at 6. Did you feel that they were strongly behind Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't address that before when you asked it. Yeah, I would say, let's put it that way. They clearly did not want to give the impression that they wouldn't, because with Mort's report, it doesn't help their leverage with that pick or trying to trade down or whatever. Or teams find out if you eliminate a quarterback, which is you don't want to do it at 6. If clearly when you don't know who the future quarterback is, you don't want it out there that you're not going to draft a quarterback. So I would say, look, they didn't give any signals that they wouldn't. I would say that was okay. That was one of the takeaways. And Roseman was asked about Zach Ertz. He didn't deny it. He didn't deny that they weren't going to trade him. He talked about. I just got their transcript, Mike, but I just listened to Roseman talk. It was clear to me that he's willing to move him. That's just my interpretation. Look, he could have said, "Listen, we're not going to move Zach." This is the way it works in the National Football League. You know this. If you're not going to move a player, you say it. You don't leave anything else out there. And he didn't deny that he's available. As far as I'm concerned, that's the way I saw it.
Yep. In fact, I have the transcript and I'm reading the Ertz part of it as well. It's, that he's been a huge part of our success. He's a heck of a player. We value him. But at the same time, that. So where do you think that stands? Because it seems like there's been some, I don't want to say mixed messaging, but a trade could happen any day now. He's frustrated. They want a third or a fourth. I think we both can agree that that's not going to happen. So where do we kind of see and that hey, they would be happy keeping him if they can't find something. I mean, to me, that sounds a little wonky.
Yeah, here's what I think, Mike. If they can't get at least a 4, right now, I don't believe they have that. I think Roseman will take it to the draft. Why? There's nothing going on here. The first on-field work that they could have would be after the draft. So why would you just – I mean, I know you want to do right by the player. Zach's been awesome off the field, exactly what you want in a football player, and you want to do right by him. But you also want to do what's best for the football team, which is what Roseman talked about. So, and by the way, you take the Chargers off their list, you would think, because they agreed to terms with veteran tight end Jared Cook on Thursday. So that would be a team that most people thought would be a target for them. Right now, other than the Bills, I don't know if there's anyone out there now. And again, I think if you're Howie Roseman, you take this as far as you can go. Or at the very least, if you can't get a 4 this year, try to get a 4 next year. And those kind of things, by the way, typically happen in the draft. Though it's a little bit different, the compensation wasn't nearly as high. Marquise Goodwin was traded during the draft last year, and of course, that trade has now been nixed. He's now on the street. He was sent back to the Niners. The Niners cut him as soon as they got him back.
Yeah, that's another wonky thing. And I think, did that reverted trade get them under the salary cap, or were they already there?
Well, I know this. They got back over $4.4 million on the cap. I do know that they're under the cap. I do know that if they needed to do something, a mid-level free agent, I'm told they could do it. So what's out there is not really correct with how much cap space they have. It's very fluid. I'm always careful. I've said this for years. Be careful what's out there. Unless you get it from the team, you have no idea what you're talking about. Because the numbers move. There's certain things that go on that the media is not aware of. I'd be careful. But you can get a ballpark. Teams will tell you a ballpark. I generally will get, like I knew at one point the Eagles were 25 to 28 million over from a team source. Okay. So obviously now they're actually under the cap of 182.5. And remember this, if they could get Ertz's contract off the books, they're going to save over $8 million. So they'll be in better shape. But the other thing is, Mike, they've got to be able to sign their rookies, and that rookie class could be between $5 and $8 million.
Adam Caplan, the Inside the Birds podcast, the latest edition is out. You can hear him go a lot more in depth in a lot of these, free agent things and the salary cap and all that stuff with Jeff Mosher. But what I want to get into is this report that came out yesterday that. Now, it's interesting. I don't know if it was so much of a report or it was, hey, this is what I'm kind of hearing, and I kind of agree with what I'm hearing. Jason Lockenfor from CBS essentially is like there's too many whispers for me to deny this, which is a lot of people think that the owner wants to be in on Deshaun Watson, the quarterback, Any stock into that for you?
Yeah, here's the way I look at it. The Eagles do not know who their starter is going to be for 22. Right now, they believe it's going to be Jalen Hurts. If you don't know who the future at quarterback is going to be, you got to be in on any quarterback who potentially be available. Watson's kind of like, he wants out. So you're 50% there. But the organization, the general manager, does not want to trade him. However, now we have the pending legal issues, which we didn't know about a week ago, Mike. I'm sure you're aware of what's out there. He's being sued. So they've got to figure out what's real and what's not. And if there's anything real to this, then this obviously would nix any kind of trade. But I'm told by multiple sources, just in terms of trading him, they're still not making him available. So I would sum up what you're asking is by this way. Knowing the way that Howie Roseman works, I can't imagine he would not have called Nick Caserio, the general manager of the Texans. It would not be like him. It's one thing if they had Carson Wentz, he would have called. If Wentz was playing well. And quite frankly, if Wentz didn't want out, I still think he would have been here in Philly. And I don't think that, in fact, they would have called. I don't know. Again, I don't know if they call Watson for Watson or not, but I do know this. Fast forwarding this situation, Wentz is gone. The quarterback they took late in the second round, they never thought would be their starter. Don't forget that. People could say whatever they want. They didn't think that so at the time. Now that he is, they don't know about him. He only started 4 games. We're talking about Jalen Hurts here.
Yep.
So I do believe there's some truth to that just knowing the way I know that building and that owner and the general manager and the way that they think, they have to make a call. That's just the way it is.
Well, and the way it was put in the article is it's got to be killing them that they can't do anything here. And the fact that it was, hey, the owner, I mean, now that we're hearing all the stuff about Jeffrey Lurie, it kind of says, okay, now I can believe that. I can believe the stuff that Roseman's probably going crazy that he can't be a part of, because normally their name is attached to everybody. Well, their name's not attached to anybody this year because they can't afford any of them. So I can imagine everything that was kind of quoted in that article, it's got to be killing them. This is coming from the ownership group. Would you be surprised? All of those quotes make a ton of sense to me. And I guess, as we know, Adam, you would have to give up that number 6 overall pick in that draft, plus many more.
Yeah,
plus
way more
many
now,
more.
by the way.
Right, plus many more, but you would no longer have that 6th pick of the draft. So they would have to balance. Do we really want that 6th pick? Because I said yesterday, Deshaun Watson's one of about 5 guys in the whole league I'd trade that pick for.
Yeah, it's very valuable for a team that has so many needs. And here's the other thing: is another team that's in on the Watson trade talk. We've called the Texas multiple times. He said the problem is, though, do you want to gut your football team? Not only is it going to take multiple first-round picks,
right?
You're going to have to give up players as well, and then you're going to make your team worse. So it's a kind of a catch-22. You get the quarterback, you get your franchise quarterback, but you got your team. You got to be careful about that. It's something we're going to keep an eye on here on our show Inside the Birds. We'll probably talk about it again. And other rumors that we hear. And, oh, by the way, we should mention the Eagles did make some moves. They re-signed Hassan Ridgeway, who's going to be more of a 4th tackle. Andrew Adams is more, I'm told, as a 4th safety. Rudy Ford left, but Rudy Ford didn't play on defense. He was just a special teamer. But I'll tell you what, Rudy Ford I'm told, was their fastest special teams ace. So that's a loss for them. Don't on special teams. I know he's hurt a lot, but I know this. The Eagles really like Rudy Ford in that special teams role. And Adrian Killens is back, but he's a long shot to make the team.
All right, the latest Inside the Birds podcast has more on all of this stuff. You can check that out, of course, Inside the Birds. The guys will have a new podcast on Monday with everything that happens over the weekend. And, of course, Adam Caplan, kind enough to juggle his day so we can get his thoughts on everything that's happened. Really good insight, as always. Adam Caplan, at Caplan NFL. He, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Adam, have a great weekend, man.
You too. Thank you.
All right, and, of course, Football at 4 is brought to you by Dr. Lyle M. Back. For everything from skincare to cosmetic surgery, go to ilovelyle.com or call 856-MAKEOVER for Dr. Lyle M. Back. Proud sponsor of Football at 4.